Quite impressive.
He was obviously quite a chap, the Admiral. Under his command, 20 of the enemy's ships of war were taken or destroyed, and he clearly had a hand in putting down the mutiny at the Nore in 1797, for which he earned King George III's gratitude and friendship. And that's by no means all, as the fulsome inscription on his monument records. This is just the last bit.
In all the relations of life, he was perfect, according to the measure of human imperfection. In his daily walk with God, exemplifying the graces of the Christian character, above all, in the largeness of his charity and in the beauty of his humility. So clearly, he wasn't just an admiral, he was a Hampshire saint as well.
From memories nautical to memories monastic, Fran and I are to make our way to Buckler's Hard, through the lands of the old manor of Beaulieu, farmed originally by the Cistercian monks of Beaulieu Abbey.
Ah, St. Leonard's Grange. Yeah, I can just see a Victorian etching of that. They would have loved it.
Perhaps 500 years old, and a lot of it still standing. Looks in rather better shape than I am, really. And here we are, Buckler's Hard on the Beaulieu River, and what we see today looking just as it did in the 18th century. Now, this great wide greensward between the cottages suggests either that they were very keen on village greens, cricket and that sort of thing, or that the place was laid out for a specific purpose. Well, apart from the layout, the clues are that the village is on the Beaulieu River, that in the 18th century the river had a good depth whatever the tide, and also gravel beds which provided good, strong banks. Most important, the village was and is surrounded by woodland. And if you haven't yet deduced what went on here, any Hampshire schoolboy will tell you that what Buckler's Hard was known for was shipbuilding. And a very successful yard it was. In the 18th and 19th centuries, over 50 naval ships and many other merchant vessels were built and launched from here, including Nelson's favorite HMS Agamemnon, which carried 64 guns, and of her, the great man said, "My ship is without exception the finest 64 in the service." The gravel beds provided good hard standing for 2 launch bays at Buckler's Hard, upon which the ships were built. When you realize that it took perhaps 60 acres and mature trees to make the average 74-gun ship, you recognize the importance of nearby woodland. The vast quantities of oak needed came from Hampshire, though much of the elm, beech and fir were wagoned in from surrounding counties. The tree trunks, which had been stripped of their bark and left in the open to season, were then cut into suitable lengths and thicknesses, and this by pairs of men using a handsaw. Hard labor indeed. What is staggering, given the simple tools available to shipwrights, is how these piles of timber were translated into such well-found and splendid ships. The building and repair of ships here went on well into the 19th century, but ended with the arrival of the ironclads. For all that, so intact is Buckler's Hard, that it's easy enough to imagine the shipwrights and their families living here still. But I can linger no longer and must be on my way to Beaulieu. A choice now of a long route or a short cut.
Now look, Fran, Uncle's getting tired. There are 2 routes to Beaulieu. There's one inland, which looks shorter, and then a longer one alongside the river. So what do we do? Alongside the river. Come on, then. Come on.
And through the meadows, Fran and I made our way to Bewley, home of the man who owns the river, the land hereabouts, and Palace House, Lord Montague. Though I'm going to see Lord Montague's mother, who's said to be over 90 and is called Mrs. Pleydell Bouverie.
House, isn't it? Hello.
Hello.
I've got an appointment with Mrs. Pleydell Bouverie, Bob Wellings.
Yes, of course. Come on in.
Fran, would it be all right if I brought her in?
Yes, that's perfectly all right. Bring her in.
Thanks very much. Some tea, that would be...
Would you like some?
I'd love some, thank you very much.
I believe that's hot water. Which is the hot water, which is the tea? No, it's the hot water. I thought it was. It's a bit nearer.
Right.
Yeah. How do you like it? With milk?
Pretty well as it comes. With milk, yes, please.
Pretty well as it comes.
Just while you're doing that, I was very struck by the house. I've not been here before, and I wondered whether it was the style of a French chateau.
No, I think it's baronial Scotland.
Ah.
That's what it really is. But my father-in-law came from the border country, you see.
Yes.
Came straight down. He'd been 12 years, I think it was, MP for Selkirk Division.
So it's a Scottish manor house, which
Yes,
has just been
added on.
Yeah. Now tell me, when did you come to Bewley first?
I came to Bewley on the 10th of August 1920. So I came to Bewley to stay here in that summer, but I meant to be married on that wedding day.
Yes. And what was the place like then?
A perfectly beautiful little village, completely unspoiled, and the river quite lovely. Very few boats in the river, practically no boats in the river.
And it's still unspoilt, still unchanged. Well, some changes, perhaps.
In those days, you had two grocers. Everything you see, it's awfully difficult to get out of Bewley. You could only get out of Bewley if you had a rally, or pretty good on a bicycle. Very few cars. The shops all had traps and little tiny ponies when I was first married. And you had to go 6 miles to Lymington, 5.5 to Hythe, 6 to Brockenhurst. And so everything you could buy in Bewley. And he said he wanted me to buy in Bewley, so I have always bought everything I can in Bewley, unless I can't get it.
Is that the idea of just, supporting local trade?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because, you see, it was their livelihood. There was nothing... The butcher, Miss Hayward's just given up, but I've known 3 generations. When he came, his grandfather was there. And I've known 3 generations of the butcher's shop.
And you still shop there now?
No, because he's just given up about 6 weeks ago. Very sad. I ordered my first meat from Remington today.
Really?
Really?
First time ever?
Ever, yes.
Bewley had remained unspoilt because, long before such things as town and country planning, her father-in-law, the Duke of Buccleuch, had seen to it that any development to the estate was done sympathetically and unobtrusively.
The old days, the very old days, before my father-in-law was given it as a wedding present, he did not inherit it. He was given it as a wedding present by his father, the Duke of Buccleuch. And from that moment, he came down here and added on to the house because it wasn't possible to live here. Because when the Duke came down, twice a year, and then he put all his relations and friends in all the cottages all round, and every inch of it was... But you can't call him an absentee landlord because every penny he took out of Bewley, he put back into Bewley. And it was he who built all our farms. And not a penny went back to Scotland.
And the pennies, or pounds, are still generated here. It was his rival in the stately homes business, the Duke of Bedford, who quipped that Lord Montague hadn't a stately home, but a garage. A sardonic allusion to the highly successful motor museum, which draws in visitors by the thousands. None of this activity, I may say, do you see from the village. It's very well screened.
Where are you going to next?
Well, all sorts of places, Miss Pleydell Bouverie, including, which is the worry, including places like Southampton and Portsmouth.
And I'm rather concerned about Fran, who is a country dog and really doesn't like traffic and doesn't like going on the lead. And I just honestly don't know quite what to do about it. It's a problem.
We don't mind dogs here at all. This house has had a lovely lot of dogs always, of every sort.
You wouldn't consider sort of taking on temporarily one more?
Well, very, very, very short time I would to help you.
Thank you very much.
Very, very short time.
Fran, go
Now,
and say
Fran,
hello.
come on, get to know me and come and have a biscuit. Come on, come on, Fran, come on, girl. Come along, have this biscuit. We'd love to have her, and I'm sure she's very good.
She will behave herself.
Yes, and behaves herself.
And I will collect her quite soon.
Will you? Thank you very much indeed. Made friends already, haven't we?
Oh, fickle Fran. Well, I shall miss her on the next bit. End of a long day. Next stop for this particular pooch, bed.
And Bob will be out of bed and back tomorrow morning at the same time.